All right, so firstly, before I get in and answer today's questions, just a big thank you for everybody that's been sending me your questions. We get probably about 15 to 20 questions per day. And guys, I'm always really happy to answer these questions, whether it's on this type of medium or just sending you a quick message on Facebook if that's what you're asking. So thank you for that. So if you are interested in asking me a question, you want me to answer it like this in a video, just reach out to me on social media. I'll leave a link below. That's the easiest place to find me on Facebook. Send me a friend request, but also send me through your question and I'll be sure to answer on something like this. But let's get into today's question. So today's is my hypnosis clients, or my clients' hypnosis results, only last for about a week to 14 days. Why is this? Does this mean I need to do more hypnosis with them, or am I missing something? So, yeah, good question. Well, this is quite a loaded question. So your clients' results are only lasting for a week or so. So there's many ways I can answer this, but I think the easiest thing is just to point out two of the biggest issues with more the traditional type trainings around therapy and coaching and hypnotherapy and things like that. And the common issues that arise from that type of hypnotic type of intervention, where it's like the eyes closed, relax, walk down the stairs, and then, once your client is in a so-called trance, you give them positive suggestions. Let's talk about in that context. So if your client's results are only lasting for a week, if not 2 weeks, doing more hypnosis is not necessarily the best option. And there are two common things that I see for most therapists who struggle with this, and these two things are this. Number one, we all know about the root cause. Everybody talks about the root cause. Everyone knows that in order to heal a client's problem, we have to go for the root cause. We've got to figure out what that is and heal that, because we know when a client says, I have anxiety, or in my case, it was the client saying, I'm a smoker, I can't quit, or I have PTSD, or I have weight issues, whatever it is, we know these are symptoms. And the reason we know this is because a client's problem, just like our own problems, exist in the unconscious mind. And the only way that we can describe what we're feeling and what we want to heal is by talking about the symptoms. So if you spend your time in the therapy sessions fixing the symptoms, we know it's not going to relieve the root cause, which means their problem's going to come back. Now, this also leads to another big problem, and more of like a presupposition or a conclusion that a lot of therapists and coaches sort of find themselves in is this. They'll go into a session locked into like one type of therapy. Like an example of this would be like, all root cause problems exist from like anxiety. That's a common thing that goes around. And my view on that is that's impossible to know that, because we know all clients are different. All their problems are different. They have their different needs and desires and motivations. So once you start to categorize people into this is the root cause for all my clients' problems, you now lock yourself into this is the one way to do things. And unfortunately, when it comes to therapy and working with people, there is no such thing as one way to do things. That's impossible, because everybody is different. So if you go into the session concluding that you know where a client's root cause problem is, you are now locked yourself into that position. And thus you now lock yourself also into the position that there is only a specific technique that will solve this problem. And you can see this is pretty common in like Facebook groups. I'll see people say like, my client has anxiety, what's the best technique to use? And then you'll get a myriad of answers and opinions and stuff like that. And that's an impossible question to answer, because if your client has anxiety and that's all you know, they've just presented a symptom. So it doesn't matter what technique or what strategy you use, you're only going to resolve the symptom. The only way to know and find out what the real root cause is to talk to your clients about their problem, figure out the dynamics of the problem, the parameters of the problem, what the problem is, what the problem isn't. And this is what we call, in more the conversational hypnotherapy program, this is what we call the strategic hypnotic interviews, to really find out what's going on underneath, finding out that real root cause thing. But like I mentioned before, if you go into a session using one type of therapeutic technique, it's basically saying that I know what your problem is beforehand, and I know the technique that best suits the way that I do therapy that's going to solve your problem. And this doesn't work. That's why the traditional techniques like the regressions, the timeline, the relaxation, the imagination techniques, they're extremely hit and miss, because not every client is the same. And we can't make those conclusions that you know what technique to use or what the root cause is until you actually do a thorough interview with your client. And I'm not talking about an interview on a piece of paper and then finding about their information on a strategy call. I'm talking about as part of the intervention, the very first thing you need to do is find out the parameters of the problem. And thus talking about the problem, you need to be looking for unconscious moments and the root cause and all that sort of stuff. But I don't want to dig too far into that, but that would be the first thing. Concluding that you know what the root cause is, because maybe your guru has told you that all root causes stem from this, which is impossible to know that. Second is secondly to that is the technique thing. When you're stuck with one type of technique, like step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4 should be the outcome, you're now concluding that all clients are the same. And basically, if that technique doesn't work, you're basically getting to the end of all the steps in the 1, 2, 3 step process. Of course, it's going to be hit and miss because it's dependent on the context of the client. So the first thing you can do is stop concluding you know what the root cause is. And secondly, don't be using the same technique and strategy. Go beyond the techniques and strategies and actually do some sort of therapeutic work. The next thing, and probably the biggest one, is something that I call testing. And I know no one does this, no one teaches it, because I've taught it so many times now. And I've got students from different academies and different gurus and stuff like that, and they've never heard of this stuff. But to realize this, let's say, for example, I'm working with a smoker. My client is a non-smoker in my office, and that's it. Then, because it's context driven, that's where they've given up. And the scenario and the emotions that have come out of the testing process is only conducive to the office that they're in. And the idea behind testing is to throw scenarios and emotions and things like that at your client and essentially try and break the session. So what do I mean by breaking the session? Everybody believes that once your client comes out of trance, you want to sort of treat them like fine china. You want to just get them out of the office, and you've assumed that the session has worked because you've got to the end of your technique. That's why the technique thing is hit and miss. But like I said, your client is only a non-smoker. It doesn't have PTSD or anxiety or something like that in your office. And if you don't test your clients and make that resource that they found thick and strong and be able to withstand sort of anything else outside of your office, when they leave your office, the world is going to test them. That emotion, when they get stressed out, that caused them to smoke in the first place, if you don't test that out in the office, the world will test them for you. So again, if you're noticing that your client's problems are coming back within just a couple of days, it means you haven't tested them. If you have slightly tested them, it means you haven't tested them enough. If you're not testing any of your clients, you can expect your clients' results to be extremely poor and the problem to always come back. On top of that, you can always expect multiple sessions as well. A lot of people say that you have to have X amount of sessions and X amount of homework and X amount of audios and X amount of everything else in order for a client to overcome their problem. That again is revealing the very mechanical and technique process that therapists and coaches get caught in, trying to apply a technique to a problem they have no idea about because the client doesn't even know, they're just giving you the symptoms. So really, my roundabout way of saying this is you need to be testing your clients. You need to make sure that you can try and break the results in your office so you can fix them. You need to be asking them about emotions or scenarios where they might smoke again, or they might eat that junk food again, or they might have anxiety again. Because if you don't test them, the world will test them. And if you don't give your client's resource some robustness and some strength, all it's going to take is one small bad emotion and the problem's going to come all the way back. And you're going to expect session after session after session after session. So bar none, one way that I always guarantee my clients never needed multiple sessions, I'm talking about hardly ever, like 98% of the time was never multiple sessions, was to test my clients and find what I call the loose ends of the problem that still exist, for lack of better words, therapize those things, make that a part of the solution that they found. And then I never have to worry about my clients coming back, never have to worry about my clients having multiple sessions. And I never have to worry about what technique or strategy is best because I'm not locked into one position. So you'll know you're experiencing this problem if you're locked into one way of doing therapy, one conclusion that all clients' problems stem from like anxiety or childhood trauma or abundance blocks or anything like that, is because you're going to experience multiple sessions. You're going to have your clients' results up and down. You're going to have your clients leaving your office and then a couple of hours later calling you back saying it didn't work. And all of the main issues that associate to not testing and being locked into a certain way of doing things, which again is impossible to know what to do until you talk to your client, all comes down to the conclusions and the presuppositions that you go into a session. So to answer your question fully, if your clients' results are not lasting forever, test your clients properly, but also start looking beyond the strategies and techniques and don't get locked into one way to do things. If you, again, want to find out more about the testing, we do have a Udemy course that's like $20 or something like that. I'll leave the link below. It goes through the full testing cycle, and it guarantees to stop multiple sessions. It guarantees to make your clients' resource that they found in a positive way very robust and strong, so they never have to worry about their problems coming back. Go check that out. I'll leave a link below. But hopefully that answers your question. And guys, that's it for now. See you on the next video.